Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Tickell. I'm the Deputy Head of the School of Humanities and Social Sciences. On behalf of the University of New South Wales, I'd like to welcome you to our Canberra campus at the Australian Defence Force Academy. My task today is to introduce you to the Bachelor of Arts degree. ADFA and the University of New South Wales is a rather unique institution. We are a civilian university, the University of New South Wales, contained within a military academy. That makes us unique amongst universities and I think unique amongst military academies. A military academy that contracts out its part of its tertiary education to a civilian university. Now, the job of the University of New South Wales can be expressed rather succinctly as to provide a balanced and liberal education to the future leaders of the Australian Defence Force. That is essentially what my job is. It has a lot of specifics attached to it, but in generality, that's what we're on about. Because this is a rather unique institution, what you will find is that you're going to be introduced to split personality 1A when you come to this place. There is a military culture and there is an academic culture. And in many ways, there's a tension between the two, a creative tension rather than a destructive tension. One of my colleagues who has been here for a lot longer than I have described this institution as Hogwarts meets Colditz. I presume UNSW is Hogwarts and ADFA is Colditz. It's not really a prison camp and it's not really a school for magicians either. We are two different institutions, yet we have the one aim. We are two different cultures, we have one aim, and that aim may be described succinctly as to excel. We want to make people succeed, and we want to make people, our students at this place, succeed at a high level. 50% is not good enough for us. This is an elite institution. Okay, what I'm going to offer you now is a rather fanciful vision of how these two cultures operate at ADFA and the University of New South Wales. They are not real videos. I have stolen them off the internet, and they are courtesy of Monty Python. Here we go.
Anyone got anything they'd rather be doing than marching up and down the square? Yes, Atkinson. What would you rather be doing, Atkinson?
Well, to be quite honest, Sarge, I'd rather be home with the wife and kids.
Would you now? Right, up we go. Yeah. Everybody else happy with my little plan of marching up and down the square? Yes.
I've got a book I'd quite like to read.
Ah, here's a big book then. Now. Everybody else quite content to join in with my little scheme of marching up and down the square? Yes, quickly, what is it?
I'm learning the piano.
Learning the piano! And I suppose you want to go practice, eh? Marching up and down the square! Not good enough for you, eh? Right, off you go! Now, what about this for you? Rather react to the pictures, I suppose. All right, off you go! Bloody army, I don't know where it's coming to. Right, time to make the marching up and down the square.
Democracy and humanitarianism have always been trademarks of the British Army.
ADFA is nothing like that. Absolutely nothing like that. Now, this is what academic culture may be like.
They take everything
that probably is much closer to a politics tute at this place than the military one was close to military life. Okay, where does the BA fit into all of this? The first thing to note about the Bachelor of Arts degree is that it is a non-vocational degree. It does not train you specifically to become an engineer, a doctor, a dentist, a business person, or whatever. That doesn't mean it is useless. It trains people in generality to do a wide variety of things. Now, I'll go on to explain this in terms of the multiple roles that our students, when they graduate from this place, play in the Australian Defence Force. Most obviously, people who graduate from this place will become soldiers, sailors, airmen and airwomen in the Australian Defence Force. That's obvious. That's what you're here for. But that role implies a whole number of extra things that you will do, extra skills that you need, extra roles that you will play. Above everything else, you will become leaders of men and women. That's what this place is about. The word leadership occurs over and over again in this place. Officers in the ADF lead. You may become peacekeepers. The last number of deployments of the ADF in the Solomon Islands, in East Timor, before that in Cambodia, were to keep peace. In Africa before that, in Rwanda, were to keep peace. Not to make war, but to keep peace. Often the ADF acts as diplomats or representatives of the Australian government and the Australian people. You are the public face of Australia. You will become the public face of Australia overseas. You will become at certain times emergency aid givers. So Operation Sumatra Assist after the tsunami in Sumatra. As you move up the ranks, you will become policy advisors and policy makers within the government. These are all aspects of the role that officers in the ADF will play. What the arts degree offers is a degree that emphasises the way human beings live in and make sense of their world. Our degree is essentially about people and the way people understand themselves and understand others. So if we go back to this list of jobs that you may do, all of those are about people. Leaders of men and women. Men and women are people. Peacekeepers, you make peace with people. Diplomats, representatives of Australia, you represent yourself to other people. You give emergency aid to other people. You advise on policy to a government. You make policy for the country, all of which are about people and politics and whatever like that. Okay. These are the skills, the generic skills that we give you. We give you the capacity to think clearly and critically. These are vital skills if you're going to do any of these jobs. We develop well-honed communication skills, both orally and in writing. So you will learn to write persuasively and well. You'll learn to communicate verbally, orally, persuasively and well. We give you the ability to find and access relevant information. We give you the ability to judge what information is actually relevant, what information is credible, what information is to be believed, what information should be thrown away. And perhaps most importantly of all, we give you an understanding of and the ability to discover the underlying principles of why people behave and act in the way they do. Whether this be through the study of English, history, politics, foreign cultures, or philosophy, the main subjects we teach, all of these give you the ability to sort of extract general principles, general theories, general understandings of the way the world is and people are in that world. All of this provides the basis for intelligent leadership. I often say to my students, would you want to be led by somebody who was a moron, who knew nothing, who couldn't intelligently assess a situation, even though they may be the most charismatic people on earth, have the X factor of leadership that all of the students who come to this place actually have? but can't make an intelligent decision. The things we do at the University of New South Wales is we add value to the X factor of leadership that makes people good leaders, intelligent leaders, better leaders. Okay, what are our methods? The fundamental method that we use in teaching and learning at this place is that we ask questions. We ask students questions. Hence that Monty Python clip that I showed just before of what have the Romans ever done for us started out with a question. We ask students to find and evaluate evidence, to look for written and other sources of evidence and judge whether that evidence can be believed, whether it's credible, whether it's biased, whatever. We ask students to justify their conclusions. It's very, very easy to present an opinion. It's much more difficult to justify that opinion with evidence, with sound reasoning. That's how we add value. We ask people to justify what they say, what they write, what they do. We also ask students to consider what questions should be posed to provide relevant, logical and practical answers to particular problems. Most of the time, we don't provide answers. In the humanities and social sciences, in the core disciplines of an arts degree, there are no set answers. What's most important is defining a problem to get an answer that is doable, practical, right, ethical, etc., etc. So perhaps more often than not, we're about posing the right question rather than providing a single line answer. More than anything else, I suppose, what we try and do is challenge assumptions. And in challenging people's assumptions, what we try and do is also take you out of your mental comfort zone. What you'll find about ADFA is that the defence side of this institution will often take you out of your physical comfort zone. They will take you to places where physically you have never been before. We aim to complement that by taking you to places where mentally you have never been before. We ask you to look at yourself and how you fit into the world and actually critically evaluate who you are and how you act within the world. So it's a challenging environment, physically and mentally. What we do is we equip you for a complex and diverse world. I think it's a cliche of the modern world to say that the world is now much more complicated than it ever was. It probably isn't, but certainly we now know much more about the complexity of the world through mass media and things like that. What we do is give you the skills to deal with that world, deal with it intelligently, rationally, practically. Okay, some nitty-gritty. What do we offer in the BA? The BA is taught across the whole of this campus in the 4 schools that are part of the faculty at UNSW in Canberra. The BA is essentially a creature of the School of Humanities and Social Sciences. Within that school we teach English, which is essentially English literature, history, Indonesian studies, which is both Indonesian language and history and culture, and international and political studies. These 4 subjects can be taken as a major sequence, a 3-year sequence across the degree. We also teach ethics as a series of separate electives, and they are, at the moment, not yet a major sequence, but in the foreseeable future they may become one. We also offer as major sequences geography, that's taught out of the School of Physical, Environmental and Mathematical Sciences. We also offer business out of the School of Business, and from the School of Engineering and Information Technology you can do information systems, which is about the use of computers, computer technology in planning, logistics and things like that. Okay. There is also a possibility of doing some cross-institutional study at this institution, especially if you have studied a foreign language before that is not offered at this campus. You are allowed in second year, with the permission of the Department of Defence, to study a number of foreign languages, most common of which are Japanese, Chinese, Arabic, French and German, at the two other tertiary institutions in this city. Now, there are a few conditions on this. First of all, you have to get permission from the Department of Defence. From the university's point of view, you can go anywhere you like. Secondly, it has to fit into timetables, and timetables are a problem at this place, largely because you're doing a military education and an academic education at the same time, and there's not that much time left in the physical timetable. And from my point of view, since I, to some degree, have to approve these, I will only usually give permission for people who have done the relevant language study before. Cross-institutional study usually only applies to languages. The Defence Department has a strong investment and interest in encouraging multilingualism. It doesn't apply to other subjects. You'd have to argue for hours to be allowed to do something like anthropology or another subject like that at another institution. So there is a possibility of doing some subjects outside of this institution. What do you think about when you enrol? I think the most important thing is to study something that interests you. Remember, you're going to be here for 3 years, and if you are bored totally witless by things that you think you should do but really don't interest you, it is going to be a monstrous torture. Do stuff that interests you. I always tell people that the Defence Department is interested in success and excellence. It's a big enough organisation to actually find jobs for all of you, no matter what you do. So do something that will interest you. It makes life much, much easier. Think about where you want to go in the Australian Defence Force, where your career may take you, what subjects may enhance that career path. So if you want to be an intelligence officer, think about doing politics and a language. If you want to be a logistics officer, think about doing information systems, things like that. Talk to people about what will enhance your career, what will make you a better officer in the ADF, what will make your life easier more than anything else, I suppose. Think about the long term of what you're going to do at this place. And by the long term, as an academic, what I'm talking about are major sequences, and a major sequence is the major focus of study that you undertake at this place over the 3-year period. Remember, when you come here in your first year, you're not bound by that choice. You can actually change what you study after first year. When you come here, you will enrol in 4 subjects in first year. Each of those 4 subjects can actually extend all the way through to third year. So even though you may be asked to specify that your major will be, say, Indonesian, if you decide you have absolutely no aptitude for language at the end of first semester, you can drop that and take up politics if you're doing politics, things like that. But think about, pre-plan your life at this place as much as you can. It gives you focus, it makes your decisions much easier later on. Now, the way it works is that first year subjects are a prerequisite for all upper level subjects, all subjects in second and third year. So if you want to continue on with politics in second and third year, you have to do politics 1A and 1B. If you want to continue on with English, you have to do English 1A and 1B. Or you have to, in later years, pick up those first year subjects. You can't do the major without the first year component. Okay, that's basically the degree in kind of capsule form. I think it's better that I now open up to questions. I'll try and answer as many questions as I can here. If we run out of time, you're quite welcome to come back to Adams Hall, to our display. People will be available there also to answer questions. And I've also got a note here to say, when you leave this place, can you leave by the door there? Because people will be coming in for the next talk up there. It's just a logistics thing. Okay, any questions that you'd like to ask me? Oh, wonderful, I've stunned you into silence. Yes.
The Bachelor of Arts, you can study history and international political studies, or is it just one or the other?
You can study both. It's quite possible to do a major in 2 subjects, 2 fields of study all the way through. And in fact, that's the normal pattern for students. Yes?
How much does history and politics intertwine with each other? How related are they?
They're different methodologies in the sense that politics is more about theory that informs practice. History is more about practice that then informs a general theory. Now, how do I explain that? History, to me, tends to emphasise a story, so a narrative. Politics is less good on the narrative, put it that way. In terms of their complementarity, they're fabulous. They actually reinforce a whole set of skills and a whole set of knowledge bases that are very, very complementary. Yeah. Yes, up the back.
How many students do you get each year doing languages at different unis? Is it a high amount, or is it?
No, relatively low, probably about 10. Yeah. Yes.
What proportion of your intake comes here to study arts as opposed to the other schools?
We're about 25% of the student intake. The arts degree varies between roughly 20% and 25% of the student intake. So each year we get a roughly maybe 100 and 110 students come in. Yes?
What would be the average academic workload on a weekly basis?
Okay, face-to-face contact, somewhere around 12 hours per week, but the workload is calculated on a 36-hour week. So if, for instance, you have 3 hours of history, that'll usually consist of a small group tutorial and 2 large lectures in a room like this. It presumes that you will probably do 8 hours of work outside, so reading, preparation, stuff like that. Now, that workload may not be spread evenly across the semester. What we try and do in the School of Humanities and Social Science is stagger our assessment, because if students do history, some of them are doing politics, we try and have major pieces of assessment put in different weeks. So you may spend 15 hours a week at history one week, but only 5 the next week. The big point about that is for art students, they have to plan their time. If you don't plan well, that's where things come unstuck for most students. And we have various units at this place, a language and learning unit, an academic language and learning unit, that can actually help students make that transition from the school environment where it's 10 o'clock, I've got to go to Maths 1, 11 o'clock I go to English. We help with that, and we're aware of the problems of transition.
How many people do you say are in history? An average history year?
History 1A, this previous semester, in first semester, had 135, 140 students in it. It's our largest subject. Politics had about 110, English had about 50, Indonesian had about 50. Yes?
The history subject, modern history or?
History 1A and 1B. 1A is a history of the modern world from 1400 to the present. History 1B is a military parallel to that. So 1A looks at more civilian, general sort of historical topics. 1B takes it back and looks at armed conflict between that period. So we try and give it, in all of our subjects, we try and give it a certain military flavour just because of the nature of our student body. Yes?
In terms of civilian and military linkages there, is it just going from one subject to another, such as looking at the arsenal in Venice to, say, the Mongols, or in some progressive form, or are you just looking at timeline as a whole?
what I'll do for that question is ask you to go and talk to some of our historians at Adams Hall, so I don't actually make a mistake. I think it's more... It's chronologically ordered, I know that, but there are some big themes involved as well. So it's not just a series of discrete items. There are linkages, and the assessment asks you to make linkages across there. Yes.
What's the recommended level of prior knowledge for languages studied?
At this institution for Indonesian, it starts with 0 proficiency. If you have Year 12, we have ways and means of jumping you up. So, yep.
And what about with other languages that you can study through Bachelor at ANU?
Generally, the same thing applies there. They will have a beginner's stream and a post-Year 12 stream. For us to let you go and study those languages, generally we want you to have Year 12 so we have done some demonstration of your ability to do a language. Yes?
You mentioned ethics before. Is that going in undergraduates?
Yes, very much so. There's one almost semi-compulsory ethics subject that is offered as what we call a general education subject. All students at the University of New South Wales are required to undertake 2 general education subjects within their degree. At this institution, we have 2 sets of 2 subjects available as general education. One of those is military ethics. We also have a number of other elective subjects available to anybody in any degree that people can take. These are subjects that are strongly encouraged by the Department of Defence. The Department of Defence is deeply interested in having its personnel behave ethically. Yes.
If I apply for it in 2014 and I want to decrease my workload at UNSW, can I do the same subject, say for example at ANU or University of Canberra?
Yep. Yeah. People who come to this institution with prior study at any Australian university will be given credit for that, provided you pass the subjects. We don't give you credit for what you fail, but provided you pass, we will search for credit. Credit's divided into 2 categories at this place. Specified credit, which if we can find a subject in our catalogue that matches, say, the ANU catalogue, say Politics 1A and 1B, we'll give you credit for Politics 1A and 1B. If, say, you did something like sociology, legal studies or whatever, that we have no direct equivalence, we will give you unspecified credit. So you'll be given the equivalent time off within your studies. Yes, again.
Will students be given support in subject selection?
Yes, when students come to this place to enrol, academics are available for discussion of their academic plan, as it's called, the subject selection, basically across the 3-year degree. Students are also encouraged at any time during their degree, if they want to change their emphasis, to come and see an academic advisor. So there are nominated academic advisors available. Each school has an undergraduate coordinator. Each school has a deputy head education like me, and we're available by appointment to see students at any time. One more? 2 more? No more? Okay. Thank you very much. Please have an enjoyable day at ADFA today. See all the sites that are available to be seen. Thank you.